Hi, my name is Brandon and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. Today I want to talk about one of the big differences between just being sober and being in recovery, which is letting go of old ideas and kind of reshaping the way we think about the world around us. I'm going to be using a section from Living Sober as a guide for some of this. And the section starts on page 68. It's the section called Letting Go of Old Ideas. So in general, we can only change so much by not drinking or using drugs. But when we do that, when we go sober, our old ideas and ways of thinking are still there, even though we're not using or drinking. So these old ideas just take on a different tone in sobriety. It's wonderful to be sober. I don't want to take that away from anybody, but to recover, we have to address not only the use of alcohol and drugs, but the thinking patterns we developed in conjunction with that use. So here's a simple example. We used to have emotional and possibly romantic ideas about what alcohol and drugs did for us. I definitely did. I felt like alcohol made me more of the life of the party, very common thing for people who are alcoholics. I felt like it made me more charismatic, that people were more likely to want to talk to me, and that I was more likely to be accepted by the social groups I wanted to be a part of if I was drinking. When I was using pot a lot, I felt that like it helped me be the cool, calm, collected guy I wanted to be. I wanted to be that just chill guy and relax and take it easy and really be cool, calm, and collected. And, I felt like it helped me do that. And so I had these ideas about how these drugs, how alcohol helped me be something in life. But what I can look at with a clear head in sobriety and in recovery is not what these things did for me, but what these things do to some people. The damage they cause, the chaos that erupts around us and around anybody who cannot use these drugs or alcohol without some kind of severe consequence. So just reading some from the book, I start at the beginning of the section. They say, the ideas that got so deeply embedded in our lives during drinking and drug use do not all disappear quickly as if by magic the moment we start keeping the plug in the jug. So this is a very, very important idea for people in early recovery to remember. Your life is not just going to drastically improve the second you quit using or drinking just because you quit using or drinking. Now, it's going to drastically improve in the sense that you're not going to have a hangover from drinking. You're not going to have as many problems meeting commitments, for example. But the real work of the program, the real work of any kind of spiritual program of recovery comes in addressing some of the character defects that we have, trying to mend the wreckage we've created in our lives, and coming up with a more principled and intentional way of living moving forward. And none of that really happens just because we stop drinking or using. All of that takes work to develop ourselves as the kind of people that it's very difficult, if not impossible, to be while we're in the middle of an addiction. So reading on some more, they say, what we try to achieve is a feeling of being relaxed and freed from the bonds of our old thinking. Many of our former habits of thought and the ideas they produced limit our freedom. We can now measure the present day usefulness and truthfulness of a thought against a highly specific standard. We can say to ourselves, now that is exactly what I used to think in the drinking days. Does that kind of thinking help me stay sober? Is it good enough for me today? So I think that's a really good way to consider any thoughts that we have, especially when it comes to the kind of thinking that gets us in trouble. Self-pity is a great example for me. I find myself a lot in my recovery getting into positions of self-pity because that's how I spent an enormous amount of time in my addiction. A lot of feeling sorry for myself, a lot of, and not just the woe is me type of, I want to be clear that feeling sorry for yourself, self-pity, comes in many different forms. And it's not just the, oh, woe is me, the world is kicking me while I'm down type of feeling. Self-pity can also come in the feeling of resentment. You know, to me, resentments are are often a form of self-pity. And it's anger and self-pity mixed together. And so anytime those kinds of old feelings come up, we have to stop and say, okay, wait a second. Is this useful for me in sobriety? And if it's not, it's time to take a closer look at that thought and shift our perspective on it a little bit, or maybe just let go of whatever's driving it and move on to the next thing that we need to be taken care of. So we need to also be willing to let go of our ideas about alcohol in general. A lot of our ideas about alcohol, alcoholics have to be released right at the beginning. And you'll hear this a lot in meetings when people come in and say, well, I didn't think I could be an alcoholic, or I didn't think I could be a drug addict because those people, you know, live on the streets and they have all sorts of mental issues. And here I was, you know, supporting my family and going to work every day and being a productive member of society. And so a lot of people have to immediately let go of the preconceived notion that they had about what an addict is and what actually it looks like for addiction to wreak havoc on your life. We've got to let go of those kinds of ideas. And I'll read this next section about what it means to admit that you're an alcoholic or addict, because a lot of people have a notion that that means weakness, and it doesn't. So let's read about this. Before we could recognize the illness in ourselves, we had to unload this tired old myth. It would be a sign of shameful weakness to admit that we couldn't handle the sauce anymore, if we ever could. Weakness? Actually, it takes considerable courage to stare unblinkingly at the hard truth, sparing nothing, without glossing over anything, without excuses, and without kidding ourselves. It is unseemly to brag, but frankly, many of us think that at kidding ourselves, we are world champions. So we've got to let go of the idea that we're weak somehow because we've admitted that we are powerless over addiction. We've got to get rid of that. There is so much strength in that admission. There is so much strength in the self-knowledge that we exhibit when we make that admission. We've got to hold on to that and not get caught up in the idea of weakness and of us not being able to do certain things, like not being able to drink at a party. We need to focus on the positive aspect of knowing ourselves well enough and being strong enough to say, I can't drink at a party, because if I want to live and live a good life and be the person that I want to be for myself and the people around me and the people I love, I can't engage in that kind of behavior anymore. Doesn't mean you can't, but I can't. That's super strong. And when you see someone at a party who is not drinking because they are choosing not to drink because they know what it does poorly for them, I guarantee you, if you are that person at the party, someone at that party is looking at you and is being inspired by you. Someone is looking at you as a beacon of strength and going, wow, that person did something good for themselves. That person took a hard, honest look at themselves, and I want to be more like them. I guarantee you, because that is how I, as an addict, used to look at people in recovery. when I was at a party just about to get drunk and fall off a chair and thinking, man, how does that guy do it? So keep that in mind. It's not a weakness. It's a strength. There's great strength in that. And the last thing I'll read is this last paragraph is really meaningful to me. We finally asked ourselves, wouldn't it be more intelligent to seek out and tap a strength greater than our own to persist in our futile solo efforts after they had time and time again proved ineffective? We still don't think it is very smart to keep trying to see in the dark if you can simply switch on a lamp and use its light. We didn't get sober entirely on our own. That isn't the way we learned to stay sober. And the full enjoyment of living sober isn't a one-person job either. So this last paragraph, the whole reason behind this is to tell us it's not a problem to ask for help. In fact, that's what we should be doing. You know, don't sit in a dark room when there's a light next to you just because you're too proud to turn the light on. Ask for help. Use the help, whether it's from your fellowship, your friends, your family, or from your higher power, whatever that may be. Ask for help. Use it. And again, be thoughtful about the strength that goes into recovery in general. Don't get caught up in the misconception that there's any kind of weakness involved in recovery. And all of these examples that I've given are just some of the many examples of old types of thinking that we need to disabuse ourselves of when we get into recovery. We've got to be willing to take a look at old ways of thinking and ask ourselves, is this helping me stay sober? And if it's not, we've got to figure out what is the alternate way for me to think. How can I let this go or turn it into something different that will help me stay sober? Hope you all have a great day today, and I will see you back here with more tomorrow.